So this is basically a case study of how I run research at Songkick. Our design team consists of myself as the UX designer and Gideon, our design director. So I do the lion's share of the interaction design and run user research. Gideon looks after the visual design, the branding, and does some of the interaction design too. So Songkick are a startup based here in London. We're the second biggest live music site after Ticketmaster. We have 7 million fans discovering concerts on Songkick every month. The main concept is fans track their favourite bands and we send them a personalised alert to their phone or inbox to tell them when those bands are going to be playing near them, so they never miss them live. Getting feedback from our customers, building prototypes and analysing our data and metrics are at the heart of what we do. So you'll find all the usual stuff from an agile lean approach. We have daily stand-ups, we have the Kanban board that you saw earlier, we do short iteration cycles, we prototype things so that we don't have to write specs and we use those as the basis of what we're going to build. But we've also spent quite a long time iterating on our product development approach, and I wanted to share a little of that with you today. So we knew how we were going to do things wasn't great. We weren't moving as fast as we wanted to. We'd figured out how to iterate quickly on the things we were sure we wanted to build, but our iteration cycles and everything else was very slow. So we took inspiration from all sorts of places, and here are just a few of those. So how does product development work at Songkick, and how does user research fit into this? We basically move back and forth between 3 modes: customer discovery, and product delivery. In customer discovery, we learn all about who our customers are, how they're doing things now, and finding out if the idea we're just about to invest a lot of time and effort in is even worth doing. Once we find something worth doing, we move into product discovery, where we figure out how we can make this work. The ideas then move into product delivery and get into the backlog and get prioritized along with everything else. So in the startup world, Steve Blank, who some of you may have seen before, talks about customer discovery, and he uses the term get out the building. So in short, this means go out there and talk to your actual customers. So someone working in research and design for some time, this is very familiar territory. Basically, he's talking about user research. So we regularly meet our customers, ideally in their natural environment, but sometimes they come into our office or we speak to them on Skype. We dig into how they do things. We uncover their behaviours, their attitudes, their goals, their motivations, and we seek to understand what problems, frustrations and pain points they have. Then we show them some of our ideas and we figure out, is this worth working on? And is this for anyone out there who actually wants this? So in product discovery, we start with a business goal and a related customer problem. Then a small team with a product manager, the tech lead and the design lead meet every day to work on this problem. First, we generate a ton of ideas. Then we note down any assumptions and risks. And we turn our ideas into hypotheses that we can test. So here's an example of a hypothesis. If we put a share button after bands add a concert to Songkick, then bands will share their events to Facebook because they want to tell their fans about their shows. Next, we design the cheapest experiment we can to validate our assumptions and test out our hypothesis. So there's lots of different types of experiments we could run, but this one's probably going to be kind of pretty dirty and hacky. So we could build something into our product which has automated tests, all the corner cases covered and is beautifully designed, but that isn't going to be quick and it isn't going to be simple. So sometimes we just put a button on the site or add a primary nav item that doesn't actually do anything, except tell us how many people click that button. Sometimes we'll A/B test a really hacky version of something and just see how it performs. Sometimes it actually involves writing no code at all. It could be sending a tweet and seeing how many people retweet it. It could be running a survey, it could be building a clickable prototype and putting it in front of 5 people. The trick is really choosing the experiment that will get you closer to answering your question as fast as possible. So after running the experiments, we analyse the data that we found and we make decisions about what to do next. Often the results lead us to more ideas, hypotheses and experiments. Other times the outcome is we know this is something people want and we know how we can make it. So that's great. This is what we now call a validated learning, and we can be pretty sure it's something people want. So we throw away our experiment and add it into the product backlog to get prioritised along with everything else. So 50% of our ideas are bad, but they're not failures. We're optimising this process to learn as much as we can in the shortest amount of time. So the cycle times are hours and days, and the output is knowledge. So in product delivery, we take the things that we validated during product discovery, the good things, and we figure out how we're going to actually design and build them for real and get them shipped. So this includes scaling, performance, acceptance tests, corner cases, all those kind of things. But we still iterate through this cycle and measure the various solutions each time. But the cycle times are much longer. They're a week or more. So right now I'm spending about 50% of my time in product discovery, 30% in product customer discovery, and 20% in product delivery. So now I just want to run through a few tips I've gathered from doing this for a while. So first of all, get out of the building. When I started at Songkick back in 2009, I went out with my backpack on, padded the streets of London, and met people in cafes, bars, and restaurants and music venues. I talked to them about how they find out who was playing when and where, who they went to concerts with, and how they invited them. Then I showed them Songkick. I returned to the office, covering the walls with post-it notes like a lot of you probably do, and I presented back what I learned to the rest of the team. So this was great for me. I learned a lot about the type of people I was going to be designing for, and I did a pretty good job of translating all of that stuff into data that the rest of the team would find useful. But the developers didn't get out from behind their desk very much, and it was really hard for some of them to connect with what I was telling them. So this kind of felt wrong to me. I wanted them to hear some of those stories firsthand and actually see people using Songkick for the first time. So I decided to make something in the office which would allow the rest of the team to do exactly that. So stay in the building and hack your space. So I didn't have the budget to rent the type of labs I was used to working at Flow Interactive with people like Chandra and Martina, particularly at the frequency I intended to use them. So I walked the building hunting for somewhere to build a small lab. And I came across a dirty, kind of noisy server room next to one of our meeting rooms. So I wondered if I might be able to claim some of that space to use as our lab. It turned out I was in luck. The wall between the meeting room and the server room wasn't load-bearing. So along with the COO, I hatched a plan. We recovered some abandoned windows from the basement. We bought some tinted window sheets, the ones that boy racers use in their cars to black out windows. And along with the expert skills of our building manager, we cut a hole in the meeting room wall, stuck the window frames in, and gathered a few cushions together. We now had the basis for our lab. Next, I got an old Windows machine, found some cheap screen recording software, and spent an afternoon at Maplin's with the design director figuring out how we could record the audio and patch it through to the observation room. So both rooms are still used as meeting rooms when we're not running research, even when royalty come to visit. The first sessions happened back in early 2010, and we've been doing them ever since. We still regularly get out of the building and see fans at concerts, observe them using our apps, and we often get on planes and trains and interview artists, fans, and industry types in the US and Asia. But now we have this really great resource in-house where product managers, developers, and QAs get out from behind their desks and see people using our products every week. So get feedback from your users as often as you can. By experimenting, I've personally found that 3 to 6 people in a day is enough to get the feedback on what we're working on now if we run those sessions every week. So obviously we'd learn much more if we got feedback from 12 people. But I don't have the time to run 12 sessions in a week, do the analysis, and the product managers would only have time to attend 3 or 4 sessions. So I decided to run them with fewer people, but do them every week. So having this constant rhythm of research is also good for the team. They know what to expect. Every Wednesday, 3 to 6 users. So it's not as snappy as like 5 users every Friday, but we're certainly learning a lot. So we have 3 websites, an Android app, iPhone, and Spotify app. We're split into 3 streams of work. Each stream has a product manager, a handful of designers, and the design team spreads across those 3 streams. So I've spent time with all 3 product managers, training them how to run research sessions and helping them with their interview techniques. So it's not rocket science. As product managers, they have a natural empathy for our customers. They're really great communicators and they enjoy talking to people. So sometimes we get to pair on sessions, which is great. Other times I run them solo, and sometimes they run them by themselves. And that's pretty much how we manage to run research one day every week, sometimes a couple of days a week. So by training more people to run the research, we're able to get feedback in a more timely, regular fashion. So always know exactly what you're trying to learn before you start. This is pretty obvious, but when you're moving fast, it often gets overlooked, and you'll get much more out of your research if you agree exactly what the most important things to learn before you actually start. So a few days before the participants come in, I sit down with the product manager, we write down everything we want to learn and the hypothesis we want to test out. Then I get busy writing the discussion guide, building any prototypes, and finalising the recruit. So I usually structure the session so around a third or a half of them are around customer discovery, collecting stories, uncovering behaviours, motivations, goals, frustrations and pain points. So we do customer discovery. We don't do customer discovery as a phrase up front, we do it every week. The rest of the session is for getting feedback on our prototypes, validating our assumptions and hypothesis, and evaluating anything that we've recently shipped. So having an agreement on what are the most important things to learn helps me focus my research and analysis and move fast. So experiment with remote research tools. We already talked about this a little bit this morning, but in my experience, face-to-face sessions in the wild or the lab are where I learn the most. However, there are lots of tools to fill in the gaps in our knowledge, so don't be afraid to experiment and find things which work for you. So here's just a few of the ones that we use regularly. What users do in open hallway, where participants speak into the mic, they complete tasks they read on screen, and then we get videos of those interactions a few hours or a day afterwards. We also regularly run surveys with Poll Daddy and pop-up ones on the site with Qualru. Sometimes we use these surveys to run true intent studies. So that's where we recruit people actually using the site now, give them a call on Skype and talk to them about what they came to do and their experience. We use click and memory test tools like Verify App, 5-second test and Usabilla to test out flat clickable prototypes and visual designs. And we spend a lot of time digging into our Google Analytics and log files, but we use heat maps and other tools in Crazy Egg to find out more about how people are using our site. But these tools are merely another data point that sit alongside our qualitative research and help us to build clearer pictures of our customers. So hustling the recruit. Recruiting is hard, we all know that, and getting the recruit right is important. So we always write a recruitment screener. We sometimes use fieldwork companies, but I often run the recruit myself along with a few hours of an intern's time. I believe that we know our customers better than anyone else, so we're in the best position to get the right people. So how do we do this? For existing customers, we'll mine our support desk, Twitter and Facebook, looking for people who might have the type of problems we want to hear more about. Sometimes we query our database looking for a particular user, like is in LA, tracking 100 artists, and joined in the last 3 months. We'll send them an email with a specific date, we'll outline how the session works, and we might pay them up to £30. So for our target customers, you basically just need to find out where they go and place your ads there. So I've used all sorts of methods, like some of the ones you can see here. So whilst this all sounds like a lot of work, it does get easier every time you do it. You've already got those templates and contacts in place. So if you need extra convincing, you can use this 2-for-1 trick. Use the recruit as a way of gathering survey data from a larger sample by linking through to a screener questionnaire from your ad and adding some additional survey questions. So this way you get to recruit 5 people, but you can get survey data from 200 people. That to me is kind of a win. So getting feedback to the team as soon as possible. I tend to run the sessions for an hour with 30 minutes in between. So during the research, anyone who's observing has a job to do. They note down the things that work on green post-its and the things that don't on orange. So this means they're more engaged and they better be paying attention because afterwards they're going to have to give their feedback. Then after the sessions we do two things. We either tweak the prototypes or the live site, or we write down the top 5 observations from that session. So with our research goals and hypotheses in front of us, the PM and myself will sit in silence for 5 minutes, jotting down the top 5 things. But having the goals in front of us ensures we report back first and foremost on those. Then we talk through our top 5s, observe the post-it notes that have been gathered, and involve anyone who was in the observation room in that conversation. As we talk, I type the top 5 into a Google Doc, post the link in Team Chat on Skype for anyone who couldn't make the session or fit in the room to see. Then it's time for the next session. So this probably sounds pretty exhausting, and it is intense, but you've already noted down 50% of the important stuff, shared it with the rest of the team, and given yourself a head start on your analysis whilst it was all fresh in your head. So the next day I'll review my notes, I'll listen to a little of the audio I recorded. I do record the sessions with person in picture, but I rarely get time to look at them, so I've probably done like 5 highlights videos this year. Then 24 hours later I report back to the team in a research download, synthesising all the data we collected, answering our research goals, and getting insights on our assumptions were correct or our hypotheses were proved. So then it's on to the next thing. Sometimes after the sessions I make customer storyboards like the ones you see here, which often form the basis of persona work. So lastly, just do it. So even with a small team and a little amount of cash and a few people, you can still get feedback on how people use your site, where they use it, how and why. All you need is some serious hustling skills, a little bit of space, and someone in your senior management team who buys into your vision after a little or a lot of persuasion. So by making research easy to do regularly and turning around that analysis fast is now a key part of how we make product and strategic business decisions. So your responsibility as people designing products and services is to step out of your own perspective, immerse yourself in the world of the people you're designing for. And the problem is out there, not at your desk. Thank you. Thank you, Joe. Samantha?
Really great messages. Thanks, Joe. One big question for me is you mentioned that you have 3 teams working in silos.
Yeah.
How do you make sure that the experience is consistent for somebody who might be interacting with a number of touch points in their life?
Sure. The teams don't actually work in silos. They're just like 3 streams. So we're all located in the same building, and the developers actually move around between teams. So the product managers are fixed, but the design team is spread across all 3, and the engineers kind of move around. So making sure that the experience is consistent is pretty tough. One of the things we do is we get people to test out like each of the different things in one session, for instance. So we try and recruit people that are using our iPhone app and the website, or using the Android app and perhaps some of our other websites.
I asked because I use the app and the email and I've had some inconsistencies.
With the notifications, yeah. So there's still some bugs we're trying to kind of fix around that, but yeah, you're right. Sometimes you get an email and it's not in the notification. That's kind of a problem with our data and delivery system. John?
Yeah, the kind of very rapid.
Use your big voice.
Sorry. With the kind of rapid turnover of tests and the small numbers,
Yeah.
And also the reliance that the company has now on those consultants in terms of making decisions.
Yeah.
How frequent kind of outliers or findings that you just don't kind of quite believe and you don't have the numbers to substantiate them?
So sometimes like I was saying before, the output of kind of some of those tests is we need to run more research, or to validate a hypothesis more, or to prove out an assumption. So quite often if we're really not sure of something, we'll just do more tests to find out, or we'll try and get more quantitative data somehow. So that could be building that little feature in a kind of a hacky way, and then just seeing the kind of uptake that we get with it. Does that answer your question?
Yeah, I also just wonder, does that happen kind of often, or is that
we quite often try and recruit kind of outliers as well, like extremes of behaviour. So yeah, we try to capture those as much as we can with those kind of small experiments. Fantastic. One more question? No? Fantastic. Joe? Oh yes, wait, Tom?
Yep.
Hi.
Your week sounds pretty exhausting, actually.
Yeah, it's quite tiring. Hence why we're hiring.
You've got huge enthusiasm and are probably pretty good at persuading people. But do you ever find a degree of like burnout on the team? You're going to say, for goodness sake, we know enough about our customers, can't we just get on with things? I mean, how do you keep that energy up?
Not really. I'm actually very lucky to work with one of the co-founders who really buys into user experience. So that's the reason why I was hired in the first place. So the kind of the product managers that we employ also have that kind of at the heart of what they want to do. They see kind of the value in this work, and they really believe in it. So I don't have to sell it into my company. I'm lucky, and most of the developers also are very kind of keen to make sure the things that they build are as good as they can be, and they have real empathy for their customers, partly because of the lab, but they kind of had that already before I joined. So yeah, maybe we're just lucky. Thank you so much, Joe.